Tim Smith, a member of school board.
Mike Capel, member of school board.
Lindsay Costello, principal.
Pam Martin, assistant superintendent.
Mark Dakota, town manager.
Brooke Wakefield, recreation director.
Steve Moyer, administrative services manager.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Sharon, I'm Sharon.
Very important.
Just very important.
So we have put together, we, the select board, have put together a proposed agenda and pass it to the school board members for their review and to see if they wanted to add a couple, which they did. So we have about 8 items or so to move through. So why don't we just go ahead and move through? And probably the most important, I suspect, is the first one, since it will govern so much decision-making, is a new building use agreement. So Mark, did you have a copy of the?
Well, we had the most recent one that I
Right.
have in my files on our computers is dated May 21st, 2020.
That could be right.
That was the one that we were working on when COVID took over our lives. So I do not believe, there were edits that were going back and forth during the months of March to May. I don't believe that a final draft had been voted on by anybody, by either board. So I think that this in draft form is what we currently have. But that's the only thing that's in my record. You guys know, there's no signed copy at the school.
I went back and checked my records.
Prior to this, I believe there was a 2018 version that was a couple of years old and was actually overdue. I think we had talked about looking at it in 2019. That's what led to the start of this draft and the back and forth. So that's where we are right now. As I've told the select board, I think it's very important that we revisit this. You know, obviously there's been huge changes. And, you know, a lot of the agenda here is regarding use of the facility. So I think it's a good idea for us to come back to this agreement.
I agree. Some players have changed, right? Let's see
Yes,
here.
the players have changed, absolutely. So it's a good time to be reviewing this. And if you guys concur, we can use this May 21 as a starting point. We'll annotate it as a draft and distribute it.
Okay.
And then we can go from there.
What's your time frame for getting it to us?
I can do it after the meeting tonight. I mean, it's all right.
Is it the May 20?
May
7th?
May 21, 2020.
Yeah, I have it.
So,
Do we need to have a conversation about what we?
well, yeah, I mean,
Before?
I don't know if you want to have, if there are particular things that you want to see. When I send the email, we can have a bulleted list of discussion items that either need to be included or changed.
Yeah.
Within this document, however you want to do it.
Okay, yeah, I don't think any of us are prepared to talk to it at this point, just as, let's see it and let's get
Can
it on.
you set those bullet points either in a separate sheet or down the bottom or at the top?
Well,
You understand?
like Mike says, you guys need to review this
Right.
and come up with those bulleted things. And we could potentially do it for another meeting.
If we meet, say, in September,
That's between Brooke and Lindsay. They have to do their.
Yeah, I mean, we
Right.
could do that, but. that
We
would
don't have a
to
school
start
board
school.
meeting in July. So
Do you have one in August?
we do have one in August.
August would be before.
Like mid-August?
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, preferably, it would be nice to have this in set prior to school starting, so we can plan our programming.
the 18th, I think is
We
what
have
I.
ours on the 21st.
That's
Why do I have the 11th?
So.
I think it's the 18th, 21st is a Sunday.
I have it that it's the 11th.
Oh, sorry, yep, I'm
Yeah,
on the wrong.
I have it on the 11th as
The
well.
11th,
Yeah.
yep.
Is it the 11th?
I have it as the 11th.
The 11th is good.
So then that would give you an opportunity for the board to meet again
Mhm.
prior to school starting to.
Give us a week.
Yeah.
We can have
Well, I mean, let's see what we'll get it, we can review it, we can talk about it at the school board meeting, and if there's no contention, it's done, right?
Right.
So for
Or if we have
planning,
to iterate on it, we can make that a priority.
for planning purposes, though, I'll just move ahead as if it's the same as it was at the end of the school year.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, some of what we discussed today will probably
It will.
answer the questions you have.
But the planning that we do has to happen before
Okay,
the
Right.
time you'll meet. You know,
Right.
I have-
So as far as classroom use and classroom space, I don't think anything's changing. We're still at 50.
Nothing's changing.
Well, over 50.
Over
Right,
50.
we're with this, with the classrooms designed for 45 students and we're over 50, we still have to continue to using the multi-use purpose.
And I completely understand that. The only thing, really, the only thing that I'm curious about is whether or not there could be shared use of the gym during the school day. Using a schedule with the school having priority. That's the question I have on the table. We don't have to talk about it right now,
Okay.
but that's my question.
I don't have a problem talking about that right now, though. It's easiest.
Talk about
yeah, no, it's our meeting, so whatever you guys want.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you wanted to discuss
Because
it.
we can integrate it into this.
Right.
If you come to some kind of agreement.
What kind of programming are you talking about?
Well, there's pickleball. Although, you know, there are additional pickleball, I should say. We also have our open gym, open basketball. You know, it wouldn't be a lot. I could imagine it would be one program per day, is what I'm thinking.
A program is how long?
I mean, an hour and a half to 2 hours, but the other ones are an hour. I mean, and I'm flexible, you know, with that. And, you know. with this
Do you care
gym-
what time of the day that is?
Like I said, I have to work around Lindsay's schedule with her PE requirements. I mean, I'm not asking for a particular time. I'm just asking
Okay.
for time.
Yeah,
And
and
is
I
it-
think the only things that I can think of right away, and obviously we can work around it, that calendar has worked really well.
Yeah.
Is like any indoor recess, so we just have to like stay away from those times, the PEDs day, the music day.
Does
And-
music take care of this music in the gymnasium?
Well, the music room is being switched downstairs into the main floor. And depending on how much space to kind of spread out a little bit, because the classroom's pretty small in which they're moving into. So we had it in the shared calendar as an option for music to use the gym.
So is it just the gym or is it the bathroom facilities also?
That's the discussion. point.
Right, because what's the bathroom use right now?
That's the middle school bathroom.
Right.
And lunchroom bathroom?
Yeah, because we're going back to using the cafeteria.
Is it, those doors are locked off? So I know this, from the physical layout of the building, I know the doors going into the cafeteria are on a fob. Are the doors from the gymnasium to the hallway where the bathrooms are, is that on a fob? Is that open?
No, for
It's a
some
panic
reason it
button,
can't
right?
be.
It can't be for fire.
Right.
It's a panic code. Yeah.
And you typically, the door to the cafeteria is, you know, propped open.
Yes.
Because they're coming and going.
Hmm.
So it's not realistic to fob them in and out like we used to when we had 17 kids.
Right.
To get into there. So it is a discussion point.
It is a discussion point. I don't think we're prepared to answer it now.
No,
No.
I don't want any snap judgments out of anything.
Right.
This is discussion.
Yeah.
For some of those programs, are they like 1 day a week or 3 days a week? Or it all different? It's different.
Maybe every day, one program a day, maybe 3 days a week, 2 programs a day. Just knowing that I have that availability, could, you know, open up some things for, you know, I don't know, adult fitness and just be short 1 hour things.
Yeah.
But I would absolutely be able to work around whatever you put in front of me as your schedule.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering if there were like you would need 5 days a week in certain, like, you would be looking at that, or it's kind of like 1 day here or
Very
there.
flexible.
Okay, cool.
And this was mainly managed by the master calendar that the principal would manage prior to COVID, correct? They would-
Yeah, it's actually the rec calendar that the school has access to. And it's been awesome with Sarah, Lindsay and I and Sandra putting different events in there. The Ray Center's even on our calendar now, so we're really able to communicate with that calendar. So it's very easy to see where they are. And where we work around, even when we were here, with Gail Hannigan working around it, we were working around recesses, and we were never, like indoor recess never would be a problem, because we never would schedule anything during recess
Yeah.
time. So I was just wondering if we can go back to that.
So that'd be a point of modification on the agreement that we want to address when we get to.
Well, I
that
think
point.
it already is in the agreement. It just states that during the school day, the school has priority. And if the rec can use the facility in those off periods, then we have the ability.
Yeah, we actually
to do
get in,
that schedule.
we get into the actual responsibilities of management of,
Correct.
so that's.
Oh, right. And there's a 2016 version that remember Maeve Lawler? That was the last one that I actually have signed. So that would have been the original, the agreement I'm talking about with Gail Hannigan, that we could go back to try to look at, what the language was with us using it intermittently during the school day. And we think it was COVID related, right? Why we weren't in the building during the school day. That was the, I think, first reason.
So do we have a copy of that 2016 agreement?
I do, yeah.
We'll PDF it to you.
But it sounds like that the bathrooms could be an issue in
Yes,
terms of use when people are in the gym, for the simple reason it's the middle school bathroom.
Yeah, maybe
All
even
during
with
the
that used. I mean,
Yeah.
the programs they're offering won't be that long.
Right.
Well, 2 hours. I'm older than you.
But right now, what the agreement says is priority to community-related activities.
Say that again, please.
So there's a list of priorities
Yeah.
under the draft agreement, and priority to community-related activities. That's all it says. It doesn't say anything beyond that.
Specify what-
Doesn't specify. There are 3 priority ones which deal with, all of which, well, the first 2 of which the school has priority during the weekday and after school and weekday evening. Friday evenings, weekends and holidays. The town recreation department has priority, and priority 3 during vacation weeks, mass vacation week, February and summer period, town rec has priority. That's what it says now.
What did you say about Massachusetts vacation week?
So there are 3 priority 1s and 1 priority 2. Priority 2 is sort of just a catch up, community related activities. Priority 1 is during the school year, weekday, after school and weekday evening, the school has priority. And give some examples.
Yeah.
During the school year, Friday evenings, weekends and holidays, the town rec has priority. And the 3rd priority 1 is during SAU 48 vacation weeks, mass vacation week in February, and summer vacation period, town rec has priority.
So that would be changed. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that should.
I would have a serious
Massachusetts
problem.
vacation.
Massachusetts
shouldn't be
vacation
in
week,
there.
we're in school.
Unless you'd be willing to.
Well, but that's something we can work out.
Not during the day, but at night.
At night, yeah.
No,
But-
that's definitely, since COVID and the expansion of the school, we
Right.
have not done any Massachusetts.
During we didn't have any of this, any conflicts.
So I think the language is there. I mean.
Right,
it's just-
why
yeah.
why the evenings for the school? Why does the school have
Because
priority?
of the school,
Concerts, rehearsals, assemblies.
That's so infrequent though.
Well,
It
but
is,
that
so-
just means we have
So it
priorities.
just, when you have it, it just overrides what we have.
Yeah,
We take ours off our calendar.
That I agree with.
Yeah,
well, that's
all.
why the priority.
Right.
Yeah.
during the-
And Friday evenings, weekends and
And Friday
holidays.
weekends and holidays, it's the rec.
It's direct. That's the general sense of what's in there now.
Doesn't make sense in mass vacation.
Yeah, Matt,
No,
vacation,
We'll remove
fix
that. We can-
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we can easily.
as soon as we said that.
So you'll
I
get
don't know why
us,
it's there.
you'll get us a copy of that and then annotate it, and then we'll have a school board meeting on it, discuss it, see if there's any changes. If there's any changes, we should be able to get a meeting like this, or we can just get a working session with somebody.
Yeah.
Just go back and not make it as formal, but
Right.
get it done.
Yep.
With the goal to have this done by September 1. Is that fair?
Is that when school starts? You guys
No.
start
The
meeting?
last week of
Starts.
Last week about this.
By the start of school.
By the
Have our time. I
To
mean, the
get back
thing-
to your planning, the reason we
Yeah.
dove down this deep
Yeah.
hole is because of your planning
Yeah.
and trying to figure out how you can plan,
Yeah,
set
what
up next
programs
year.
you
I
plan.
think the crux is going to be the bathroom facilities. So how to work on that.
Okay.
But you think you could live without the bathrooms because the
I
parents,
mean, if we just made it very clear to everybody that the bathroom facilities are not available during the school day. That, I think it's, acceptable.
But we just have to watch that door.
Yeah, that door doesn't lock.
The door doesn't lock, right?
So
if
it's
we
either
don't
they
do-
have full access to the bathrooms and we lock off, like the door that goes into the middle school.
Yeah.
Because that's the only locking door.
So
Do
then
we
you
need to
have
replace
send-
the door then?
You just have to send the kids around through the cafeteria
To the other
to go to the
bathrooms.
bathrooms, right?
Yes.
That's what you do now, yeah.
Well, no, right now they can go use those bathrooms, but if there was a program in the gym, we'd close that bathroom door, so the gym could use the bathroom, but the main reason there is.
Oh, you're talking about, I'm
locking
sorry,
door,
right,
yeah.
I was talking about current practice.
It's also not only a middle school issue, it's a cafeteria issue.
So the locking, I'm sorry, the locking doors that we currently have, multi-purpose room to the rec entryway, correct?
Yes.
There are two.
End of that hallway, is that a locking door before you get to the bathroom?
Yep,
And in from the gym, is that a
The
locking
gym is
door?
not a locking
Okay,
From the
so
gym.
We should change that door.
Well, no,
No,
actually,
you can't.
Tim,
You can't.
into the gym from the lobby, it's locking, but from the gym into the bathroom hall, that's the one that doesn't lock.
And I thought there was.
It
and
can't
can't.
lock.
It's got the panic
The crash bars on the other
Because the
side.
crash bar is on the wrong side.
Actually, I think it's a handle on that door.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so maybe the
But
door
it's,
jam is
my
backwards.
understanding is that it's a life safety code issue. That's why we've never put a fob on that door.
That'd be really easy to all of this.
Well,
We can
I
double
mean,
check
no,
that.
Not easy to do, but an easy fix,
But
like
that-
theoretically.
That could be checked too.
theoretically,
there's
that's
still
the
3 other
crux,
ways
then
out of
let's
the
put
gym.
that door. Or do whatever we need
what
to do.
bathroom does your staff use?
Those, that's the only bathroom we have. We don't have.
but
any-
their staff have fobs. They're
Yeah.
being cleaned.
Yes, we
That's
have,
part of
we
the
have.
safety program.
Yeah, but you can go right from your office area through that door to the bathroom.
That's all locked.
Right. Right.
And our programming is usually monitored. So we have staff that is present when the programming is happening. So it's not like
Right,
this is unfettered access
that's
to the
the,
school.
right, that's the
So-
important piece is during programming, we have to monitor that.
Well, we might have people in their offices.
It would be, it's not gonna stop someone, a pickleballer from going into the hallway to use the bathroom or get a drink out of the drinking fountain, or
Yeah.
if their water bottle.
Right.
There's no way we can staff that.
And a lot of times when you go in, I watch the 3-1 pickleball and the people, as they should be, are in the office and the pickleballers are just playing by themselves. So,
Oh, that always happens.
sure. I mean, but that's an issue.
That's how it.
So it sounds like there's a bathroom/door issue and we can probably work out a schedule, the scheduling.
Yeah.
But let's talk
The
about
answer
it
is
some
we
more.
have to figure out a schedule.
Yeah.
And methodology.
As a path forward, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you guys need time to look at the full, it talks about facilities, maintenance and all that kind of stuff too, so we'll just talk about it next time we talk about it. Since Brooke, you're here, it seems to me maybe we can move down to G and H, since the school board would like to talk about that. Here you are, we're gonna have to hold you up for the whole meeting. G is summertime recreation programming, and you guys wanted to address that, and H is after-school program. So, turn it over to you guys.
I'll talk to H first. That was my item. When we have school board meetings, and I haven't been on the PTA for a while, the common thing and thread I hear is that the after-school program or summer programs, there's a gap. Sometimes that gap is a long gap, like 3 weeks gap between the end of the summertime programming, a 3-week gap, and then after-school programming happens. That just leaves the parents with really no recourse to have to deal with daycare, because we have a large school population now. And, a lot of people are taking advantage of the after school to be able to have both parents working. So just bringing that to your attention and wondering if there's anything that can be done to fill that gap.
Well, this has been a question practically every year. When I came into the program, it was set up just like this, where after school didn't start till mid-September, just to give history, if that's, that's before my time as well. But really what the issue is that we lose all our staff in mid-August. This year, we added another week as a field trip week, which can only accept 12 to 13 kids. So we have that and it's fall, and most of those kids are WBES kids. And then we have nothing to do for those 2 weeks where school's out, or excuse me, the rest of the summer.
Yeah.
And then the beginning of the school year, we're just preparing for our programming, getting our, space organized. That's what's happening during that time to get ready, get our staff in place.
So I think the request, if we could do it, I don't know, I mean, don't have kids in the school anymore, so it's not my problem, but I think it would be worthwhile to hear from the school parents to see what they want and see what they need and see if there's, a way to accommodate.
So last year, we polled parents to find out who would be interested in our school program. And it was definitely the kindergarten through third graders. Or actually, it was the first through third graders, because we didn't have any kindergartners. We only had one that was really repeating, and he was in our program, really quick, so it didn't matter. But this year, I understand there's a lot of kindergartners, so our focus is actually going to be towards those younger kids. Without doing any sort of polling, which I think that's a great idea. But I have to tell you, it's pretty hard with our limited staff to cover K through
6.
4. It's a huge, 4 is really the highest age, after that,
Four would be a 10-year-old,
9.
9.
That's when they start falling off, and honestly, it's really difficult to program, with our one group, all those kids, so. As you know, it's really difficult to get staff, especially for a 2.5-hour shift. We're really lucky to have the one person that we do have to assist us with that. We're always hoping to have more staff, but that's what our budget holds for this year is that one group. So really focusing on the K through 2, I think is the best solution, because those are the youngest kids that need the most support.
Now, are you talking about after school, once school starts?
Yes.
Okay, what Mike is asking
No, that-
about, I think, is the gap.
Well, the gap is
Oh,
both, but really I think the school is the important part, because maybe, again, we need to get some information, maybe Lindsay, you can try to find that out, but I would imagine as a parent, if there's no program on that last week of August, you take vacation time. But now the kids are at school, and so they're in school from 8 till 2:45, and now what do you do? I think that's the bigger issue.
You want to get into a rhythm, right? When you have children, you want to be in that rhythm. When you get school started, you want to go directly into the after-school program. This is our rhythm. This is what the kid can expect throughout the year.
Right.
And the less rhythm you have, the more disruptive it is.
I mean, filling that whole gap would be great, but that seems difficult. But filling the after-school gap, I think is, again,
But the gap
speaking for
from
parents that
camp ending 2 weeks before, I think that's what you said.
Well, you guys are talking about two different things.
You're right.
Yeah.
But
You're talking about the gap before school
the gap before school starts
and the end of camp,
is also an issue
sure.
but maybe two different solutions.
because people have asked me about it, and I say, we're having a meeting.
I think I'm following where Mike is, that seems to be a almost insoluble with current staffing issues and budget issues.
Right.
But certainly something we should try to find a solution. But the other one, the after-school program, the school, I think, for a year, ran an after-school program. Remember, I think it was 2 years ago, and we ended the program, you pick it up, but then you stopped. Is there any reason why you decided not to continue from the school?
We were desperate to get more than 16 students in the school.
Okay.
We were doing anything we could to make the school attractive. We don't need to do that anymore.
No, not
So we had summer programs, we were preschool, we were doing anything to get the attendance up. And that was part of that. The summer enrichment was part of that program. I don't know where
That
we
was
are.
after school.
I'm talking about the
No,
apples.
We're talking about after- we're talking about.
You are having some
Yeah, that's-
after-school program.
But no,
There is,
At
the
one
only
point-
after school right now coming from the school is our homework club.
Okay.
And at one point, though, WBES took over the after-school program.
Correct.
Right.
2 years ago.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then it was stopped, and so we picked it back up.
Mhm.
But I guess my question was, you guys intend to you're not thinking of proceeding.
If that's the
along
way
that.
we should go, then
Yeah, that's what I'm putting on the table.
So last,
Absolutely.
so last year, the rec owned the after-school program.
So we went back to the rec, yes.
Right, so I think that's where we're at now.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what
remember-
we're expecting going forward.
Yeah, one of the issues, if you have both offerings, then this kids, a number of kids that attend gets split, so you'll have a very
Right.
small amount attending either program, so I think it'd be advantageous to either have a rec offering or a
Right,
school
right.
offering.
It's one of the other.
And I just remembered one of the main reasons why we also break is that Wiley comes in and does all his things. He has to transform all the rooms back to school. He has to, I think, surface one of the
Right,
rooms.
so that's
summer
the
camp gap.
That's the summer camp gap, right?
Right, before
So-
school starts. He has to get in there and the teachers are in their in-service days. I mean, there's a lot of, I forgot about that piece of it, which is why a lot of, like, Plymouth, all those other schools do the same things because their schools have.
So I think we should separate the two issues. We have the
Right.
before school starts
Summer
gap,
camp gap.
right?
And
Call it
just after
summer-
school program.
Summer
And then
camp
the
gap,
after-school gap.
Correct.
So we need to find out from the school parents, which one's more important. I get the sense the after-school gap is the one I always hear about. That's the important one.
Certainly the longer one. The other one's
Is there
a
anything?
week and a half, 2 weeks.
Can the school think about something to fill that gap?
Well,
Because you're gonna have staff
I'm gonna speak,
in.
I'm gonna speak
starting
for,
the school,
I'm
right?
gonna speak for your 2.5 hour person. He happens to be related. He's available. You know, he's at home. It's not like he's not available.
It's like the town moderator. It's funny how it works in a small town.
So, I mean, it comes down to budget and if he's the one, and maybe he needs somebody else there, because maybe it takes more than one person, but you know, he's one that I know has availability.
Well, it absolutely takes more than one person.
Okay.
Honestly, it takes more than two people.
Mhm.
But we also have all of our programs and activities over Labor Day weekend. We have events during that, you know, we're still like, you know, in summer mode with 3 staff members, you know, we're still running boats on the weekends. I mean, there's a lot that's still going on during that time for us. So when we always try to start it as early as we possibly think we can. This year, I believe it's the week after Labor Days when we have it scheduled for.
The week after,
So
Labor.
Labor Day is the 5th, I think. So it would be the following Monday. Is when we have it,
Labor Day
that's
is
our
the
plan, is to have it start September 12th. If that's, you know, the issue
It's
is
2
those
weeks.
first 2 weeks. Well, do you have the Friday before Labor Day off?
I believe we do.
So you have the Friday, the Monday, so it's really just, and you go back Monday or Tuesday? I don't know, Tuesday. or
I-
On
Thursday?
a Monday, the 29th.
I think it's
Is that
Tuesday.
correct? Is it the 29th?
I don't have.
So
the calendar.
it's 8 school days.
Mhm.
So if that's something,
Yeah.
you know, that we need to reassess and see if we can go back any earlier, you know?
That's, I think, the request. That's the request I have. That's the request that I hear from the school
Is
parents.
there any way that you can share the age group of the people asking?
I'm gonna, again, I need to defer to you, Lindsay.
Yeah, so I mean,
If you could put a poll out there or something.
I think to be able to like understand that there's so much more that you guys are also doing in that aspect. I know there's some parents who definitely like the after school program for the convenience of it. I think I know at least 2 families of that K3 that work related are like, they have to change a full work schedule to make that work. So on those few weeks, that last week that school gets out that you guys weren't running it, or those first 2 weeks, if there's something we could figure out for those families who truly need it in regards to childcare versus the helpful type deal. I think I noticed right away, there's 2 different areas in that.
Yeah,
And where if it's only like 5 kids, and the ones that I think of, it's under that number, if somebody could cover that period until the true after-school program starts.
Yeah, but that's-
When does the preschool start? Same time as
My
the regular
understanding is,
school?
and I can check tomorrow, because they're having a board meeting. I can check and see exactly when they're gonna
Yeah, I'm just curious if you have the preschool going, I don't know how late the preschool goes, but is it possible that there could be a temporary staff member from the preschool who
I
could
don't
help
think they
out?
have any spares.
I don't think they have, last I heard, they don't have.
It's really difficult to staff this after-school business because you can only really hope to have someone that lives in Waterville because no one's gonna drive in and out for 2.5 hours.
Right.
And we can't, that same person works 7 days a week for a while they're working on the weekends for the boats. I mean,
It's good for him.
Well,
Anyone in
He's a
particular?
rare, a rare staff member though.
Well, we need to also plan for when he's not,
Yeah.
and we can't set up. a
When he actually
system.
moves up and gets a big job.
So
See if that day ever comes.
So really, there are three separate periods we're trying to cover. There's the end of summer before school starts, gap of about a week and a half, 2 weeks. Then there's the 2 weeks after school starts. And then there's the after-school program when it picks up after that, and that's okay. On the 12th.
From the 12th.
From the 12th on, the direct department will continue to do it, and that's not something we need to
Right, we have no
concern
issue,
ourselves
we have
with.
no issue with that.
So that's fine, so,
Right,
okay.
Well, the only
The
thing.
schedule,
is
just to make
if-
sure it matches the rest of the school schedule, so it goes all the way through the end of the school year.
that's the other side, is, because I think,
Yeah.
I think in the spring, it also ends a week early sometimes. So that-
Yeah, it's just the flip side of the.
Yeah, just the flip side.
we have to do that though. I mean, we're gearing up for summer. We're planning staff orientation. right?
No, we understand, I mean, it's,
We just.
it's actually no different from any other year.
So, but there's also the problem that if this becomes more popular and more people start taking it on, the bottom line is we still only have that one staff member.
From
even
September
from
12th,
September 12th.
When everybody's back,
Right.
right, and we're up and running.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we get lucky with college students earlier, but not something we can bank on.
Is there a
So-
charge for the after school?
Yes,
They pay?
yes.
So we just need to be sensitive to that and if we got 10, 15 kids, we're going to have a problem.
Unless we limit it ahead
We
of time.
capped it at 12 and we only had up to 10 this whole year. So it wasn't utilized to the fullest extent. So that's good to know, right?
Right, that's helpful information.
Obviously, we have a totally different makeup this year with it.
So, again, I don't think we're solving the problem today. I think
No,
we're
no.
making awareness,
Everybody.
and if we can, I'm looking at you, Lindsay, to see what are some requirements, how interested it is, and then alternatively, if it can't be a rec program, do we have staff members at school that would be willing to take this on, and, we'll find the budget to go deal with that, right? We have to know what the cost is and try to figure that side out.
I know that there's been some clubs that parents have approached us that they'd like to do, and I'm sure there's parents and, members of the PTA that have certain skill sets that could teach a kid like a club, or you can even hire out, like someone to come in and do like an after school program during that time. I mean, there's other solutions to this, if you really want to get it from the beginning of school to all the way to the end.
Yeah, so we just need to look at those
All right.
options.
More thinking, yeah.
So just want to identify the actions. The actions here is Lindsay's going to informally poll the parents or somehow poll. the
Yeah, I mean,
parents
I think that,
And find out what the needs are. That's one action, right?
when are you looking to get
Yes.
answers for the
Let's say by the next school board meeting for
Okay.
sure, because, if we get answers in October, well, we've already missed it.
Yeah,
window.
and we're gonna be putting out registration for after school, and then before that, you know what I mean? Like this,
Yeah, I feel like
all
this
this
is,
happens before.
Yeah.
We gotta do it in August.
So soon.
Okay.
Okay, and don't need to wait for us. You can talk to Brooke.
Yeah,
offline,
yeah,
right?
definitely, and also,
Because-
can I just mention one other thing? We have other opportunities for after school, like the mountain biking club. And there was a hiking, we have some of that we put out this year, but we didn't get enough signups. We were able to get 3 for mountain biking club, and some days one person would show up, which makes it really challenging for us to run a program with one person.
Right.
That's not responsible.
Yeah.
So, we have to think about, people say I don't know how you get through to this, Lindsay, but a lot of times people will say they're interested in something, but then you put it out and they don't sign on. So that's a difficult
Pay up front.
hurdle. That's a really difficult hurdle, but.
Another action is, can you talk to the staff, and see if there's a staff member that would be willing to take this over, and we take it over from the rec, and we have covered ourselves, and what would that cost?
For that period or?
Just until the 12th.
Well, so I think two sides.
Either or.
Either
So two
or,
sides, for that period, or we take it over completely.
take it over completely.
So two options, and what would each one of those cost, and then we gotta figure out, do we have budget for it?
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a certified teacher. It could be theoretically, at least, maybe a teacher in a para,
Right, this isn't.
or a para,
This
and a
isn't,
para, para.
this isn't teaching,
Yes.
this is activity based.
Yeah.
All
Good
right, well,
activity.
next time maybe we'll just go through, see where we're at.
Good activity for select. board.
Yeah. well,
Lindsay, and then the last
challenge
choice would be other options.
Right. And then see if there are other options, right? We're thinking, fill the gap somehow with the rec, fill the gap somehow, well, find out, is there a need? Fill the gap with the rec, fill the gap with the school, take it on with the school, or anything else. But those-
Whatever.
I have a
And we're
question.
looking just that after school programming right now.
Yeah, we need to have enough of it, though.
We're looking
Okay,
at just the after school program.
How old are the kids that go to babysitting class? For lack of a better term,
Middle school,
6, 7, 8 graders.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, just so you understand.
So item,
What?
Are you talking?
it's 240. so
yeah, no, I was gonna move along.
I think item
guys.
G is the same.
It's the same.
Yeah, I think that I folded it in.
Yeah.
And again, while Brooke is here, how about item D, update on building improvements? I think Brooke would like to listen in on where things stand on the siding and the window
I
replacement.
guess I'm
or-
talking to Pam about
Yes,
this one. 'cause
so
I don't have
I
any update.
actually spoke to Jason Bergeron, our facilities director, today. And the blinds are due to start at the end of this month, and you're already aware of that with Sarah. Would not that that impacts you, but the siding is due to start being delivered and have that start in the next week, is what I was told. Now, understand,
We
oh, boy.
We
supply
understand.
issues is really,
We
really.
very much
tough.
understand.
We very much
Really
understand.
Yeah, so,
But, those are the plans on those projects. So, that's what he told me as of this morning, and the doors as well by the end of August is what.
End of August,
Yep.
during the school year?
No, as of right now, before school starts, but in
Okay,
August.
just end.
I think the biggest area of supply chain issues are really the doors.
interesting.
Are we replacing the siding or painting it? What are we doing?
Replacing.
Replacing siding.
Yeah,
With hardy boards.
Hardy board.
We don't have to paint again.
And Brooke, have you been talking to Lindsay about, or others about the sequencing of the siding so that it?
Not to Lindsay, but we
Or-
did discuss it in one of the school board meetings. where
Yeah,
Jason
okay, that
said
was the
he
last time
gonna
we
go
talked about it. Okay,
Like from the one side over, so hopefully by the time he gets around to the rec side, camp will be over, or will at least be in
Right.
field trip week.
That's
I
the
think
plan.
That's the plan.
that's
School side first while they're not in school,
Yeah.
rec side second.
So
from
that's
there.
still-
My only question was when he was gonna start, which I now looking that he's gonna try to start next week, which maybe means another week after that.
Could be,
Then it'll probably work out beautifully.
that's what I'm thinking as well. The delay actually isn't in every benefit for that.
okay. I'm sorry, anything else on
Nothing else at this time.
update? Great. So let me get the education funding in here. Do you have any update? Nothing
Not a
there.
whole lot, all of the bills that related to education funding were either killed and never voted on, or they were
Postponed because of 2 years.
or they were sent to study committee. There's a series of 3 or 4 bills that the Coalition Communities Group is tracking that are in committee. They'll be discussed through the summer. With the election coming up, but we don't expect any action on those prior to the election. And then depending on who runs or who is elected, the entire landscape can change. We are sending out a pre-election survey to all candidates who are registered for the House and Senate. And as the Coalition Communities Group. So we'll have information from that, which I'll send to Mike, when we get it. So you guys have it for your next, for a board meeting in the future. There are two legal cases that there was one just filed about a month and a half
Yeah.
ago in Grafton County Superior Court. That is another, basically a continuation of the Claremont arguments through another venue. And who knows where those are gonna go. But other than that, no real changes.
From a temperature standpoint over the last 10 years.
Somebody's trying.
From a temperature standpoint,
So from a temperature standpoint, over the last 10 years or 15 years that we've been looking at this, where are we on that spectrum? Are we at risk? or not at risk?
We're probably on a 1 to 100 scale, we're probably in the 50 to 60 range. It had a lot more activity than we were anticipating during the last legislative session. I think we were fortunate in that some other things came up that got the legislature's attention. And as long as the current party retains control, they've been pretty adamant that there would not be.
And if you look back 5 years, I remember we had a scare probably 10 years ago.
Well, we did have one bill that got a lot further than we wanted it to. And that was unfortunately one that was referred to study committee. That was the only way that they could kill it.
Yeah.
And it had surprising Republican support, which we were not anticipating.
Yeah.
So,
But if you could,
we'll see what the study committee says this summer.
so my question is, if you compare right now to, say, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Where I felt like this was always on the back burner, but really a non-issue.
Right. It's a little bit further forward.
So we call that like a 40, and now we're at 55,
Now we're
60.
at 50 to 60.
Okay, thanks.
And the court case, I'm assuming you read the court case that was filed.
Yeah, and. the
I'm,
court-
I'm, short term, I'm concerned with that as well.
Yeah, no, I don't think, the court cases, I don't think are as bothersome as the legislative initiatives. I think any court case decision is gonna be appealed 2 or 3 times. I don't think that any of the current, what's going through the courts, I could be wrong, but I don't think that that's got any legs for 2 or 3 years.
Short term.
I don't think, in the short term, we have to worry about that.
Thanks.
Are these cases based on average spending per town?
There are a host of things that they bring up. It's average per student
So
expenses. It's the things that are counted in the education formula. It's the funding of the formula. So they hit a lot of different topics.
I have some experience in Vermont on this kind of an issue where they, if your school paid more per student than the state average, then you become a giving town.
Yeah, and
Yes,
that's
let's not let that happen here.
We're trying to avoid getting there.
And
even worse.
in that case over in Vermont, what we tried to do is get stuff off the school
Right, we'll take.
and move it into the town.
The building's all the town now.
Well, it's the same pockets.
That is unfortunately here, it's not a multi-town
Yeah.
school district. So we could do that. We could move 100% of the school cost over to the town, but it's not gonna change a single
Not gonna
thing.
change it.
The issue that we face is right now, we're raising more with the education funding than we utilize, or it keeps our local education piece
High.
still pretty small. Okay, so we have local and we have state education funding. We're getting to keep a lot of that. We're gonna keep all of that.
All of it.
And so if we have to, the problem's gonna be if we have to cut that check for $600,000 or $700,000, we're actually gonna have to raise it twice. We're gonna have to raise it to send it to the state, and then we're gonna have to raise it for the operation of our school.
Right.
Because we're currently using it for the operation of our school. And that could be a $2 per thousand impact.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but what your point is the fact that in a small school, a lot of the cost of per pupil cost is fixed asset maintenance, maintaining the gym, for instance. Currently, under our agreement, the gym's maintenance is all on the budget of the school.
Right.
But what you're saying is if that maintenance of the gym went over to the town and the town was maintaining the gym, that wouldn't change the calculus?
No.
No, not the
How?
way.
I don't understand.
Well, and it actually, if we lowered, say that we took all of the building maintenance, let's make up a number, it's $300,000 or $400,000, whatever. And we move that over to the town. All you're gonna do is take the $1 or $1.25 that it, on the tax rate. And you're gonna move it from the local education piece, and you're gonna move it over to the town portion of the tax rate.
But the
It's not
local,
gonna change the
Right.
bottom line at all.
but the local education piece would still be non-zero.
Well,
And here's the issue,
Mhm.
is we need to raise the state education
Right.
piece. And then we're at risk that the state says, thank you, we're keeping it.
Right.
And then we have to raise that state piece a
Right.
second time.
right,
That's what the whole donor town thing is we have to raise a minimum of $680,000 or whatever that number
whatever
is.
that.
Give it to the state says, thank you very much, give us a budget. We give us a budget, if it's $685,000 or more,
We get it all.
they give it all back. But when we become a donor town, they're like, thank you for the money,
Now go raise it again.
Now
you
go
know,
raise it.
now go
Different.
fund your budget, because you're not gonna get a penny of that
So
back.
how do they calculate that from the state side?
They take the entire valuation of the state. They equalize the entire valuation of the state.
Got it.
And that is the pie. And then they say, we need $1 billion for state education. What's the share of every town of that $1 billion based on that total equalized valuation? The other issue that I see that we're going to get hit with, it's probably gonna be 2 years down the road, is we're currently at 71% equalized valuation.
It's going up.
Okay, so that means that our total value of the town is gonna go up about 30%,
Which means that.
right?
state
Which
portion-
means that our share of that $1 billion, unless every other town went up by that same amount, our share of that $1 billion is going to get larger. And then you face the fact that instead of 680,000, now you're talking 780 or
Right.
800,000.
That the state wants us to come
That
up.
the state wants us to cough up. And so the donor piece becomes a bigger factor.
The risk of donor piece.
That's right.
Right, and a lot of the things that are being built are not inexpensive.
Right,
Let's put it that way.
and so we're going to, as development occurs and as property values, if we go into some sort of recession, right, in a housing downturn, we're the last type of community to be impacted by that housing downturn.
Right.
So our values are going to stay up higher longer, is the way it's worked in the past.
Than someone like
So,
Raleigh.
but, and we'll get more information about that as the assessing project
Right.
finishes up here
But,
in the next month.
but over the last 10 years, that number was 850,000,
Yes.
880,000, and it's been on the
It's
decline.
been going down.
So
That's right.
if it gets reset, it gets reset. It's not ideal. It has really no impact on our budget whatsoever. Because our
So
budget's
far.
more than it.
Well,
It only has an impact if we become a donor town.
Correct. That is, if it's not, we're not a donor town, it's irrelevant.
We came a lot closer to that happening this past legislative session than we thought. We thought that they would all be killed in committee, that some of them actually
Couple
made it
minutes
to
came
the
out.
floor.
Yeah,
It was a lot closer than.
if you listen to some of the call, I know you called, listened a few times, I listened a few times, they're very aggressive in what they want. Even though it's a small group,
Okay,
They're loud.
so if I could, okay, Mark, good, everybody good? Let me move to the use of the gymnasium for polling stations.
Yeah.
So as I recall from the last school board meeting, the school board does not want us to use the, so if you could just outline that a little bit as to why you'd want to change what has been standard practice up to COVID. Up to the
Very
COVID
simple. I
period.
mean, you just look at the Uvalde,
Okay,
Parkland,
These are small communities, they're not 100,000.
security issues you mentioned today. We don't have a lock on the door.
They
Let's-
just can't do the bathroom.
well, let's look at, okay,
I could speak from the moderator standpoint, because she briefed me on the way in.
yeah,
She has no issue with, she actually is more comfortable with the conference center than the
Okay.
school, because she's never done the school
Yeah.
before. She's done so much stuff
Yeah.
with the adaptive program and others at the conference center. She knows how to get stuff in there, stuff out of there. She's very comfortable in that.
Okay.
that
And
scenario.
it's not the only building that we have to use. We do have a unique ability in our community to make the logical choice of not using that facility. And that's the unique ability that we have compared to other communities where the gymnasium is the only choice for community gatherings, and they would have to shut the school down for that day in order to provide the ultimate safety. For us, we have the unique ability not to have to do that.
Is the convention center available?
It's
So
got-
we look at-
It has better parking. And there's a lot of advantages there.
there are a number of other issues at play. I think if you look at, if you go to the website of the New Hampshire Department of Safety, it talks about school safety recommendations for election day. And I think we actually have implemented all of these. One thing it does recommend up front is the safest thing to do is just have no school that day. And I know you've discussed that in the past, but in the event you don't do that, because in so many towns you use the school building as a polling station, it's 2 pages of what can be done. And as I understand it, we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the year on a building that was built to include use by the community. So I just put that on the table from the select board.
That's true, but
Let me
that
finish.
one that was done, Rich,
Right.
as you know, it was not expected that we would be significantly over 45 as we are now.
Well, whether it
Changes.
is 10 or
No, it does, because all
40, I
of
mean,
a
it's
sudden,
secure or
when
not.
you have 50 kids that are getting out of school at 2:45 and their parents, they're picking them up.
Right.
All right, all of a sudden you have traffic coming in and out and everything else.
But what's the argument, Mike?
The argument is there's a lot of traffic at the end
You're
of the
talking
school
about
day.
vehicular.
Vehicular traffic,
We
kid traffic,
provide
kid
police.
traffic.
I mean, we've used that in the past. Let me just, it's a safety issue, what you get. And
Yeah, it's actually, and to your point, it's a
Yeah.
safety issue, and the number one way to mitigate safety is avoidance. And you mentioned that already in the topic, that the number one
But
way
it,
to
but
mitigate it
yes,
is
it
avoidance.
says that
We
is,
have
it's
the
not the recommended,
ability.
it's that one thing a town can do.
Right.
But there are other measures to mitigate any concerns you may have. And the point here about safety is when it comes to polling stations, that's not Uvalde, that's not Parkland. Those were disaffected students.
Yeah.
But then you start going into.
Why take the risk?
Why take the risk?
If we have the ability
Because it
to make it,
paralyzes you.
if
We're
we
talking
have
about
the
a
ability to
normal
take
risk.
zero risk, if we have the ability to take
There's no
zero
risk.
risk, why would
Why
we
don't
even
you-
take any risk? I don't get it.
Zero
We have-
risk means putting up a wall around the school. I mean, it's
Zero
not,
risk-
the
zero
goal
risk
is not
means-
zero risk.
Zero risk means using another facility that we
No.
have available that's being donated.
Zero risk
There's
is
no-
not the goal. Risk management is the goal. In a building that I think town residents expect to use, have used up until COVID.
Well,
It never was an issue prior to COVID. We stopped because of COVID, not because of safety. And I'm just laying out the argument, and you guys obviously have the final call on this. I guess what I'm calling you on is the issue of safety and your establishment of risk to be so low as to be unworkable.
The other thing
it's
you have to
completely
remember.
workable. We have a facility being donated that's a better facility and separated from the
Yeah,
kids.
And
It's
and the other,
completely
the other
workable.
issue that we have, Rich, as you know, our voting population from in 2019, 2020 to now is increased by 50% more or
More than
less.
that.
100.
More than that, 100%.
Well, it wasn't like 420, 410 or something.
No, that's the town population.
I don't know what the voting.
No, that is
That's-
roughly the voting.
Right.
Voting.
So the voting population today, I don't know what it is compared to 2 or 3 years ago, but it's up 25, 30, 40%.
That's got more than that.
It's no,
It's
double.
double.
Yeah.
It's
So
double.
all of a sudden, the amount of traffic we are talking about has doubled theoretically.
But how
So when,
do you relate that? to the
so
argument?
all of a sudden you have 3 times as many students and parents picking kids up at a specific time and double the number of voters coming in, more or less.
But during the day,
Voting time, that voting.
but I'm trying, go ahead. Yeah, of course.
Yes, voters have increased, town population has increased. Also with respect, the absentee ballots have increased. So we used to do, let's say, 20 absentee ballots for an election. Now we're close to 100 absentee ballots for an election. So that meter, those folks are not showing up at a polling location.
That was also during COVID.
That was prior to COVID.
Well, the 20 was during COVID in 2020.
That was COVID.
That was COVID when people were.
But since we've had the election since,
Yeah,
So-
we had much distance.
So Rich, your concern is it's a community building, and we should be able to.
it was sold to the taxpayers as a community building. It's been used since the number of voters increased as a polling station, as a home for the rec department. And I think that the issue of safety can be dealt with, as we've dealt with it since whenever we started using the school building as
74.
a polling station.
Right, building went up.
Early 90s.
yeah, but
Because we had a smaller base.
we had a smaller
Right,
base, and
right,
we used to do polling at town hall.
It was a very community-oriented thing, I
Yeah.
recall, with people coming, you had the PTO there and
Yeah.
so forth, fundraising, the soup and all of that, so.
Unfortunately, times have changed and those days are gone.
I guess I'm
The fact is
disagreeing.
that we're looking at increased risk in all of our schools across all of America.
Yeah.
And in our case, we have a unique option to mitigate that risk by avoiding it altogether. That's where I stand on this issue.
Me too.
Is the convention center fully ADA?
Okay, well, we can go back, as I said, it's your decision, and we'll just go back as a select board and
And we don't have
determine.
to use that. There's other buildings in town.
We need
It
to,
would be
we need to
equivalent
do
to
the,
build those.
we need to. do
What's the
primary.
timeline?
We need to do the primary at the school,
We do not.
because
The moderator said that even though we put the date in, the location could be changed. They just needed to get it in by a certain date, and they have the flexibility to change it.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. November.
Okay. Well,
Oh, yeah.
we'll reconvene and
Charge.
discuss
More
what the select board would like to do. I guess we've run out of time. We've had a couple other issues, continued collaboration efforts. I think we can just carry that to the next. The other things you want.
We could do that by
CIP
email.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
CIP we can talk about.
planning Is just a request more.
For us to get
Not
aligned.
Anything that can be mandated,
Right.
Yeah.
but with the wastewater treatment plant and all of the other infrastructure issues that we have right now, if we could get the school to be a department entry onto the overall capital improvements plan, it will help in the future with financial plan.
I
So-
agree. I agree.
Okay,
So,
no
so,
problem.
so we'll make an effort for that from the SAU office, because they're the ones that have this yet.
So the time frame is, we usually have that voted on by the planning board at their December
December
second
meeting.
Thursday, in December.
Yeah.
So if we could
I'm
get
even
something in October.
Yeah.
We can share that with you.
Okay.
Okay, and so lastly, did we agree to meet again on the 11th?
No, we're meeting on the 11th.
We're meeting on the 11th.
Right.
Prior to the 11th.
We're gonna either invite the whole board, or it'll be staff, or is what
Okay.
I heard.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll figure
Okay.
something out.
That's fine. I do think we want to meet around budget time too, as well,
Yeah.
just to inform each other
Yeah.
what we're looking
So I
at
think this
the upcoming
I
year.
think this was useful, right? So
Yeah.
November, December would be great.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have anything they want to add?
Tuition.
Can I have a motion?
I was just gonna add
Yeah.
that, I actually
You might know.
verified our program starts on the sixth.
Great,
They said that.
that's great.
Day
Oh,
after
better.
Labor Day.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's great. So Lindsay, Lindsay, you hear that?
That's a big-
I just confirmed with Sandra that it's actually starting. the
That's
6th.
really.
That makes a
Thank you
big
so
difference.
much.
Okay,
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yep.
We have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you guys
We
for
have to
coming.
adjourn too. How does that work?
Thanks a lot.
And you're welcome to stay for our select board meeting.
Hey,
Karen,
Tim,
do we have to rearrange?
you saw my email about the wigwag?
Oh, it's easier for the camera for us to shift. Probably if I sit on the other side. but That way I'm not watching you.
Yeah.
Want me to go over there too?
No, 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 no.
You
I
guys
think,
think
I
we're
think
gonna-
if I just
A
shift over there,
yo-yo
you step
back
with.
and forth, that you get locked in. Yes, I think we do.